in the previous section of this course, what we've learned is that our external worlds, everything around us, are nothing more than a reflection of our internal reality. So if we paint the world around us poorly, if we paint it in a way that's not inspiring, invigorating, something that works with us, gives us more than it takes, what's going to happen is our external world is going to be shaped in a way that is not aligned with what we want and need. Okay, now what I want to ask you, and the question I want you to focus on is, what do you think is going to happen if we paint this dysfunctional image of ourselves, this self-image that depreciates our strengths and amplifies our weakness? What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to be inspired to take action, work on our life, better ourselves, make progress? Are we going to behave in a way that's aligned with what we want, our life goals, our underlying purpose? Or are we going to be inclined to really self-sabotage ourselves and not work on what we really want, our underlying desires? Now, if you've been watching our videos in this course and you understand the main premise of the last section, hopefully you're thinking that, oh, okay, if we have this poor conception of ourselves, we're going to act in a way that tries to make that real, that our external reality is going to be shaped and come into existence in a way that aligns with our self-conception of ourselves. So what we put into our bodies, what's getting past the iron gate in terms of our conception of ourselves, is going to drastically influence how we behave and how we act. So we should really work on our self-image, our self-esteem, and try to make it aligned with what we want to do, what we want, as opposed to what we don't want. So you can see from the previous section that it's very important to be cognizant of how we're perceiving ourselves and how that's shaping the world around us. What that sensory information we're providing to our consciousness, how it's influencing our nervous system and really sculpting our behaviors and actions. Okay, so now that you see how important that is, I'm going to dedicate an entire section to taking a look at your self-image, how you perceive yourself, how you shape your conception of who you are and what you want, basically our self-esteem. And I think it's so important that I'm going to dedicate an entire section to it. In this section, what we're going to do is we're going to take a very deep look, not only at your self-esteem, but how you can improve that, how you can nourish that. In essence, we're going to treat self-esteem or a poor self-esteem as a weed, and we're going to try to pluck it out of your mental environment such that it's not sapping your energy and it gives you more than it takes, such that it's encouraging and helps you reach the goals you want to reach, okay? What we're going to do is, first we're going to try to understand what self-esteem is. We're going to try to define it, understand what contributes to it, and in doing so, we're going to use an excellent book written by someone who's known as the father of self-esteem. His name is Nathaniel Branden, and he wrote a book called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. Now, I think this is absolutely appropriate for this course because what he says in that book is that we have 6 different areas that really support a healthy self-esteem. And you know, the main premise of this course is putting together that nice underlying framework and structure that can support our lives and really nourish us in a way that allows us to reach our goals very effectively, efficiently, and easily. So what he did in that book is he laid out these 6 foundations, and if we can establish them in this course, that can allow us to support our self-esteem, have this underlying framework that can really create this nice perception of ourselves and influence our behaviors to take action and work on making a better world for ourselves, okay? So, first and foremost, let's focus on the definition of self-esteem. Let's try to understand it and dissect what makes a good self-esteem and what makes a bad self-esteem. So, in the book, Nathaniel Branden gives a general definition of self-esteem. He says that self-esteem is the ability to confidently project your conception of reality, your purpose into the real world, and to confide in your integrity, what you have to offer in such a way that you trust your abilities and trust that you can go out into the world, take action, and make stuff happen. But he also defines it as being worthy and entitled to happiness, love, and fulfillment. So, in essence, what he's trying to say is that when you have a high self-esteem, you feel that you're confidently appropriate to life. And I love that definition, to be appropriate to life, because life in and of itself has challenges. It says, hey, you got to have these certain skills, talents, and abilities in order to reach your needs, wants, and what have you. Okay, so in that definition, it really asserts that, self-esteem is an expression of your appropriateness to life, that you confide in your integrity, your intuition, and you trust it so much that regardless of what happens, you believe if you take action, if you trust your mental faculties, your resources, and project it into the world in front of you, that you have what it takes to get stuff done and make stuff happen. And that you respect yourself enough that you believe you're worthy of all the beauty life has to offer, okay? So in that definition also, you can hear that inherently there are two different components to self-esteem. So what Nathaniel Branden does is he breaks it down into two components that I think is absolutely brilliant. Let's review them right now. He breaks it down into self-efficacy and self-trust. So what do I mean by self-efficacy? It's a beautiful, beautiful word. Never heard that before, efficacy? Look it up in a dictionary. So self-efficacy, what it means is you believe that your abilities, or rather, you trust in your intuition and your integrity so much that when life throws challenges your way, you believe that you can cultivate value from within, you can, learn what you need to learn, and you can confront that challenge confidently and appropriately in a way in which you can take results and overcome them, transcend beyond the challenges that are presented to you, okay? And this is a super important component of self-esteem. I think it's really the traditional conception of self-esteem. It's the assertion that if you put in work and you put in effort, you have what it takes to get that end result, and you expect, this is an important word, expect to get results out of what you put in, okay? So this is like the convention that if you study enough, you might, your class may be super hard. Everybody may perceive it as this huge gargantuan task that almost nobody can get. But if you put in the work and you study hard enough, you're going to figure out a way. You're going to pave a path towards success. You trust in yourself. Trust, intuit, and confidence. These are the underlying words that really drive this component of self-esteem. But there's also another component. There's a self-respect component associated with self-esteem. And I think it's very important to differentiate this component to the self-efficacy component, because a lot of people, sometimes myself included in the past, we might think that, we don't respect ourselves as much. We don't think we're entitled to love, maybe to be treated properly, that we compensate for a lack in that department by working on our self-efficacy, working on trying to project ourselves into the present moment, taking our purpose, trusting our intuit, and believing that we have the ability to produce results. So what is self-respect? The self-respect component is believing that you're entitled to being treated in a way that respects yourself, right? So if somebody disrespects you, you have the inclination to say that, hey, buddy, you can't do that. Do not disrespect me. You stand up for yourself, in essence. You have a spine, okay? So it also means that you feel like you're entitled to love, that you can find love, and that you have enough to offer this world that people can respect that, can recognize that value, and love you for that, that people can actually believe you have something to offer this world, okay? So I think it's absolutely essential that we break it down into two different components, and that we work on both components equally, because if you have a self-respect component of self-esteem that's not really working with you, that's not really conducive for building a very healthy self-esteem, you know what? It's going to affect you, and it's going to affect your self-efficacy. If you don't believe that you're entitled to love, if you don't believe that you're respected, why would you confide in yourself? Because you're going to start thinking, oh, other people don't confide in me, can't confide in my abilities, and that's going to depreciate your self-image, okay?